Welcome to our deep dive, and this one's on meeting and dating women. We've got a pretty interesting book to explore today. It's called Dating the Art of Approaching, and it's full of advice, personal stories, and to be honest, some tactics that might make you raise an eyebrow.
It really delves into the psychology of attraction, how people interact. And yeah, it promotes a pretty direct approach to dating.
Direct might be putting it lightly.
Yeah.
But before we get into those techniques, I think the author's personal story is really fascinating. He goes from this place of self-doubt to becoming what he calls an approach machine. And I think it'll be helpful for us to kind of trace that journey,
Mm.
what worked for him, what didn't. What are some of the reasons why he thinks so many men struggle with this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, his whole transformation started with, feeling completely inadequate. He was in his dorm room in college and felt like he was failing miserably at attracting women. And, everyone else seemed to just have it all figured out.
Right? It's a classic college experience. You look
Yeah.
around at everyone else seems to be doing it right,
Yeah.
and you're just kind of lost.
And so his initial reaction was to just dive headfirst into the world of pickup techniques, those
Yeah.
lines, the routines, all that stuff.
Oh yeah, the cheesy stuff.
Exactly. But instead of helping it, actually made him feel worse, like a complete failure.
Right, because it's not authentic, it's not genuine.
Exactly. He was trying to be someone he wasn't. And I think that's a big pitfall for a lot of guys. They try to put on this persona instead of just being themselves.
And that's really where the turning point comes in for him. It's when he realizes that all those tricks and manipulative tactics are not the answer. It's about being honest. It's about being authentic. And that's when he starts to see real change.
And that becomes the foundation for his entire philosophy. He starts to view dating as a skill, something you can learn and improve on, just like anything else.
Right? Like playing guitar or learning a new sport.
Exactly. And it challenges that societal norm that says attracting women should come naturally to men. And when it doesn't, they feel like they're broken or inadequate. But the reality is they just haven't been taught the skills.
Right. And so his book becomes this missing manual.
Exactly.
I love that analogy.
And I think that's what makes it so relatable for a lot of men. They're finally given a framework, a set of tools to help them navigate this aspect of their lives.
But let's be real for a second. The fear of rejection is huge for a lot of guys. When it comes to approaching women, how does the book address that?
Head on, he digs right into those common anxieties: the fear of rejection, self-doubt, negative self-talk.
The inner critic.
Exactly. And he actually offers this structured approach that he calls the 5 C's to help manage that fear and build genuine confidence.
The 5 C's. I'm intrigued. Break that down for me. How does that actually work?
So it's a step-by-step process. The first is calmness. When you feel that anxiety, you got to take a breath, center yourself.
Right. You got to regulate.
Exactly. Then comes clarification. Identify what you're actually afraid of. Get it out in the open instead of letting it swirl around in your head.
Name it to tame it. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
Next is challenge. Actively question those fearful thoughts. Are they really true? What evidence do you have?
Right. So you're not just passively accepting those thoughts. You're pushing back.
Exactly. And that's what empowers you.
Yeah.
It shifts you from feeling like a victim to an active problem solver.
Okay. So you're taking control. That makes sense. What about the last 2 C's, comfort and confidence?
So comfort is all about replacing that negative self-talk with positive affirmations, building a sense of inner peace and self-acceptance.
So you're building yourself up.
Exactly. And that naturally leads to confidence. You start to believe in yourself, and that projects outward.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
It is. The more you challenge those fears, the calmer you become, the better you feel about yourself, and that leads to even more confidence.
That's a really cool approach. I like how structured it is.
Yeah. And it really lays the groundwork for the rest of the book, because once you have that solid foundation of confidence, the author introduces all of these different approaches that are designed to push you a little further out of your comfort zone.
All right, so you're gradually building up to that.
Exactly. It's a process.
Okay, so let's get into some specifics. He starts by talking about the art of approaching, and that's where things get really interesting.
It is. And he introduces this concept of intruders, which are basically verbal exclamations meant to grab attention and break into a woman's personal space.
Like making a grand entrance.
Exactly. It's about commanding attention instead of politely asking for it.
And he actually gives specific examples, right? Like,
Yes.
hey, yo, even stop, which sounds a little jarring, to be honest. It's not exactly what you'd expect.
It's definitely a bold move, and he acknowledges that it might not be for everyone, but he stresses the importance of what he calls congruence.
Mhm.
If it aligns with your personality, it can actually be quite effective.
Right. If you're naturally outgoing and playful, a yo might work. But if you're more reserved, it might feel forced.
Exactly. You have to be true to yourself. But he also emphasizes the importance of timing and context. You wouldn't yell stop in a quiet library.
Right. You got to read the room.
Ex-
So let's say you've used one of these intruders to kind of get your foot in the door. What's next?
Well, then he goes into all these different types of openers, which are basically ways to start the conversation.
Right, like icebreakers.
Exactly. And he has a whole bunch of different categories: opinion openers, compliment openers, direct openers, drama openers. It's quite the list.
Okay, let's break it down, starting with the opinion openers. What's the idea behind those?
So opinion openers are about getting a woman engaged by asking her opinion on something non-threatening. It's about getting her talking, getting her thinking, and maybe learning a little something about her personality in the process.
And he gives some pretty unique examples, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like that one about the pug and the beagle forming an 80s pop duo.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
The key is to be playful and creative. Steer clear of anything too serious or controversial at this stage.
Keep it light and fun. Okay, got it. What about compliment openers? Those seem pretty straightforward.
They are, but the author cautions against those generic compliments like, you have beautiful eyes. Instead, he suggests focusing on something unique or unexpected, something that shows you're actually paying attention.
Like complimenting her walk or the energy she brings to a room.
Exactly, something that shows you're observant.
I like that. Okay. But then he takes things up a notch with the direct openers, and these are, well, pretty direct.
They are. He's talking about straightforwardly expressing your interest, like saying, I like you, I wanted to meet you.
Whoa. He's not messing around.
No, he's not. But he emphasizes that this type of opener only works if it feels genuine to your personality.
Right. If you're naturally shy and reserved, it's going to come across as inauthentic.
Exactly, which defeats the purpose.
Okay, so honesty and authenticity. Those are recurring themes for sure.
Definitely. And then it gets even more intense with the drama opener.
Drama openers.
Sure.
I'm a little scared to even ask.
So these are all about grabbing her attention with a story. And not just any story, but one that involves conflict, humor, and a relatable resolution.
He gives some pretty wild examples, like the story about a car on fire or witnessing a street brawl. It seems a little over the top. Is the idea to shock women into talking to you?
Not necessarily. It's more about captivating her attention, sparking her curiosity. He believes a good story, even if it's a bit dramatic, can make you more interesting and help you connect on an emotional level.
Okay, so it's about drawing her in.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
then there are the insult openers.
Okay, I gotta hear.
So these are basically backhanded compliments, like commenting on fake hair or nails, but then saying, it's still nice.
Oh boy.
It's meant to be a playful challenge, but it requires a very careful read of the situation and the woman's personality.
This feels like one of those high-risk, high-reward tactics.
It definitely is. You got to be confident and know what you're doing.
Maybe one for the experts.
Perhaps. And then he also talks about joke openers, which are a little safer.
Okay, so humor is involved.
It is, but again, it requires congruence. If you're not naturally funny, a forced joke is going to fall flat.
Right, you gotta own it. Okay, what other kinds of openers does he cover?
He talks about role play openers, where you kind of cast the woman in a specific role, encouraging her to step into certain characteristics.
It's like that Sex and the City example he gives.
Exactly. That one can be fun, but it also requires a good read of the situation.
Right, you don't want to misjudge that one.
Definitely. And finally, he has situational openers, which are all about using something you observe in the environment to start a conversation.
So being present and observant, that's a good skill in general.
It is.
But let's circle back to the idea of storytelling. The author keeps coming back to how important that is. Why do you think that is?
He believes good stories make you more interesting, help you build connections, and they allow you to subtly showcase your best qualities.
So it's not just about entertaining, it's about revealing who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he actually breaks down how to tell a compelling story. He talks about the importance of structure, having a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Like a roadmap for your story?
Exactly. And then there's the action element, the want, pursue, struggle, that injects excitement and dynamism into the story.
So it's not just recounting events,
Sure.
it's about conveying the emotions, the challenges, the triumphs.
Exactly. And then he emphasizes the importance of details, those sensory specifics that bring the story to life.
Like you're painting a picture in her mind.
Exactly.
Uh,
And he also suggests using generalizations, words like everyone, or always, to subtly position yourself as the hero of the story.
It's a way of highlighting your positive qualities without being too overt.
Exactly. And finally, he stresses the importance of confidence, conviction, and energy in your delivery. It's not just what you say, but how you say it.
So it all ties back to that same confident, charismatic energy we were talking about earlier.
It does.
But this deep dive is about to take a turn into some unexpected territory. The world of strip clubs.
Yeah, that's right. He has a whole section dedicated to stripper secrets, offering insights into the psychology of exotic dancers and how to navigate that environment.
This is definitely where things get a little controversial. What's the purpose of including this in a book about dating?
Well, he argues that understanding the dynamics of strip clubs can offer valuable lessons in social dynamics, confidence building, and understanding female psychology.
Okay, so it's not just about what happens in the club. It's about taking those lessons and applying them to other areas of your life.
Exactly. He believes that the confidence and social skills you learn in that environment can actually translate to other areas, including dating.
Interesting. I'm curious to hear more about this. But first, I think we need to take a quick break.
Yeah, it is interesting how he kind of draws these parallels,
Right.
between strip clubs and other social situations. Like he's suggesting that they offer some kind of crash course in understanding, how people interact. I don't know if I totally buy it, but it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, it makes you think about all those subtle cues and signals we send each other. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's get back to some of the core concepts of the book. What are some of the other big takeaways you found?
Well, he talks a lot about dating itself. And for him, it's not just, dinner and a movie.
Right. So how does he define it? What does dating actually mean in his world?
He sees it as a process, building and strengthening the connections between a man and a woman,
Oh,
physical, mental, emotional. He really emphasizes that those connections are the foundation of attraction.
it makes sense. It's about finding common ground, finding that spark and then nurturing it. But how does that translate into actual dates? Does he give specific suggestions or is it more about the overall approach?
It's more about creating those opportunities to connect, for deeper conversations, shared experiences. He says the location or activity is less important than the quality of the interaction.
So even a simple walk in the park could be a great date if you're both present and engaged.
Exactly. It's about being in the moment and really connecting with the other person.
That takes some of the pressure off.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need some elaborate, over-the-top plan to make a date special.
Exactly. But he does offer some interesting advice on flirting, which he considers an essential part of dating.
Ah, flirting. That's where things can get a little tricky. He has that whole section on techniques, the do's and don'ts. What are some of the things he recommends?
Well, he puts a lot of emphasis on projecting confidence, strong eye contact, using her name, speaking with certainty. It's about owning your space and your words.
So that classic confident masculine energy.
Exactly. And he also suggests tapping into and communicating what he calls male sexuality. Things like a deeper voice, subtle touch, a bit of suggestive humor.
Okay. But he emphasizes subtlety.
Oh, absolutely. You don't want to
Yes.
come on too strong or make her feel uncomfortable. It's a delicate dance.
It's about building that playful tension,
Yeah.
creating a little mystery and intrigue.
Exactly. And of course, showing genuine interest is crucial. Asking questions about her life, really listening to her answers, demonstrating that you see her as a person, not just a conquest.
Right. It all comes back to being present, attentive, and engaged.
It does. It's not just about the techniques, it's about the attitude behind them.
Okay. So what about the don'ts? What are some of the flirting behaviors he advises against?
Lying or exaggerating to try to impress her.
Right, because that just undermines authenticity.
Exactly. He also says to avoid being clingy or needy. Desperation is a major turnoff.
Right. Confidence and self-reliance are much more attractive.
Absolutely. And he says don't dwell on mistakes or criticize yourself. Confidence is contagious, and if you're constantly putting yourself down, it creates a negative vibe.
So focus on your strengths and let your best self shine through.
Exactly. And finally, he says try to minimize fidgeting. Calmness and control are much more attractive than nervous energy.
It's about being comfortable in your own skin.
Exactly.
Okay? So the key takeaways for flirting seem to be your best self. Project confidence, show genuine interest, and avoid anything that smacks of insecurity or desperation.
It's about presenting yourself in a way that makes you feel good and allows her to feel comfortable and at ease.
Makes sense. But let's circle back to the idea of storytelling. The author keeps coming back to how important that is. Why do you think that is?
He believes stories reveal your personality, create shared experiences, and make you more memorable.
Okay, so it's a way to connect on a deeper level.
Exactly. And he actually breaks down how to tell a compelling story. He talks about structure, a clear beginning, middle, and end.
Right, so it has a natural flow.
Exactly. And then he talks about the importance of action. The want, pursue, struggle element.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what injects excitement and dynamism into the story.
Yeah, it's more engaging.
Exactly. And he encourages using vivid sensory language to really paint a picture in the listener's mind.
So you're drawing her in with your words.
Exactly. And he even suggests using generalizations, words like everyone or always, to subtly position yourself as the hero of the story.
So it's about presenting yourself in the best possible light without being dishonest.
Exactly. And finally, he emphasizes the importance of confidence, conviction, and energy in your delivery.
Right, it's not just what you say, but how you say it.
Exactly.
Okay, so all of that comes together. The
Yeah.
confidence, the authenticity, the storytelling, it's all part of creating a compelling and attractive presence. But now I'm really curious to hear more about that section on stripper secrets. What are some of the insights he offers?
Well, he actually spends quite a bit of time dispelling some common misconceptions about strip clubs and the women who work there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he encourages readers to treat dancers with respect and to understand that they're individuals with their own motivations and stories.
So recognizing the humanity of the people there.
Exactly. And he cautions against, objectifying women or engaging in exploitative behavior.
Right, so it's about approaching that environment with awareness and sensitivity.
Precisely. And he argues that if you approach it with the right mindset, you can actually learn valuable lessons about social dynamics, confidence building, and even female psychology.
Interesting. So he's not advocating for spending all your time at strip clubs. He's saying that if you're going to be there, be respectful, be observant,
Yeah,
and maybe you could learn something.
exactly. And he believes those skills can be applied to other areas of life, including dating.
Okay, I'm starting to see his point. It's about taking those lessons in reading social cues, understanding motivations, and navigating complex interactions and applying them to different contexts.
Exactly.
But let's shift gears for a moment and talk about online dating. The author delves into that world as well, right?
He does. He offers tips for creating compelling profiles, crafting engaging messages, and navigating the unique challenges of online interactions.
Right, because it's a whole different landscape than meeting people in person.
It is. But he believes many of the same principles apply.
Okay, so what are some of his key insights for navigating the online dating world?
Well, he stresses the importance of having high-quality photos that showcase your personality and lifestyle.
So no blurry selfies or bathroom mirror shots?
Exactly. He says your photos should give a glimpse into who you are and what you're about. And he also emphasizes the importance of a well-written profile that clearly articulates your interests, values, and what you're looking for in a partner.
So painting a clear picture of yourself, being authentic and transparent about who you are and what you want.
Exactly. And when it comes to messaging, he suggests personalizing your messages, referencing something specific from her profile that caught your eye, and asking engaging questions that spark conversation.
So showing that you've actually taken the time to read her profile and that you're genuinely interested.
Exactly. And he advises against sending overly long or intense messages early on. Keep it light, playful, and focused on building rapport.
So don't scare her off.
Exactly. And he's very upfront about the fact that online dating can be a bit of a numbers game.
Right, you're not going to connect with everyone.
Exactly. It requires patience, persistence, and the ability to bounce back from rejection.
That's good advice for life in general.
It is. And ultimately, I think he believes that the same principles of authenticity, confidence, and effective communication apply regardless of the platform.
Whether you're meeting someone online or offline, the goal is to build a genuine connection based on shared values, interests, and mutual respect.
Exactly. It's about being true to yourself, presenting your best self, and engaging with others in a way that feels authentic and respectful.
That's advice that applies to life in general, really.
Absolutely. But before we wrap up, there's one more aspect of the book we should touch on. His advice for building long-term relationships. He doesn't just focus on the initial attraction and dating phase. He also explores what it takes to create a lasting, fulfilling partnership.
Okay. So he's offering a more holistic perspective on relationships, not just the initial spark.
Exactly.
So what are some of the key principles he highlights for building that strong, lasting connection?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of shared values, mutual respect, open communication, and a willingness to work through challenges together as a team.
So finding someone who's fundamentally aligned with your core beliefs, treating each other with kindness and consideration, and recognizing that every relationship will have its ups and downs.
Exactly. And he also stresses the importance of maintaining your own sense of individuality within the relationship.
So it's not about merging into one entity. It's about complementing each other while still honoring your own individual needs and desires.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between togetherness and individuality. And finally, he encourages couples to prioritize quality time together, engaging in shared activities that foster connection and intimacy.
So making time for each other amidst the busyness of life, it's about those shared moments that keep the spark alive.
Exactly.
I think that's a great place to pause for now. This book really covers a lot of ground, and we've gone pretty deep on the author's philosophies and techniques.
Yeah, it feels like we've just scratched the surface,
Yeah.
even though we've been talking for a while now. There's just so much packed in here.
There is. He takes a very comprehensive approach, from
Yeah.
that initial spark of attraction to building something that lasts.
Yeah, we've gone from, dissecting those deep-seated fears that hold men back to exploring all these different techniques. And some of them are subtle, some of them are incredibly bold, and we even took a detour into the world of strip clubs. It's been quite a journey.
It has been. But, at the end of the day, I think the core message is pretty clear. Be authentic, build genuine connections, communicate with confidence. Yeah. And those are principles that apply to so much more than just dating.
Absolutely.
So what does all this mean for you? I mean, we've unpacked a ton of information, tools, strategies, some more ethical than others. But the real question is which ones resonate with your personal style and values?
Yeah, that's the key. He gives you the toolbox, but you get to decide which tools you're going to use and how you're going to use them.
Right. It's about taking this information and becoming more self-aware, understanding what kind of man you want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of relationships that you want.
Exactly. And maybe that means adapting some of these techniques. Maybe it means taking inspiration from the overall philosophy, or even rejecting certain ideas altogether. It's about finding what works for you.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to this.
Definitely not. Remember, genuine connection is the foundation of any successful relationship, romantic or platonic. This book provides a roadmap, but self-awareness is the most important skill you can develop.
I love that. So what kind of stories do you want to tell? What kind of energy do you want to project? What kind of man do you want to be?
Those are the questions.
Yeah, those are big ones. And it leads me to a final thought. The author focuses mainly on approaching women in public settings, bars, clubs, even gas stations. But how might these principles apply to online dating? That's a whole other world.
It is a completely different landscape, but I think the underlying principles are still the same. Being authentic, communicating effectively,
Right.
building genuine connections. Those are timeless.
Yeah, regardless of the platform.
Exactly.
So maybe that's the biggest takeaway from this whole deep dive. It's not just about memorizing lines or mastering techniques. It's about developing a deeper understanding of yourself, how
Yeah.
you interact with others, and what you truly value in a relationship.
It's about using this information as a catalyst for growth to become a more confident, authentic, and connected version of yourself.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
So on that note, we'll leave you with one final question. How can you apply these principles to your own life, to your own unique approach to dating and relationships?
The answers are out there.
That's for sure. And the journey's just beginning. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.